Alright, let's return to our parallel plate capacitor, which in ideal form produces an electric field that has constant magnitude E0 and a constant direction, which, as shown here, is downward. In this case, which plate has the positive charge? We know that the top plate will be the positive plate because field lines run from positives to negatives. Right? Or, if you want, the direction of positive charge moves, which means they'll be repelled from the top plate and attracted to the bottom plate. If we now put a positive charge plus Q into the field, it will behave analogously to a mass in the Earth's gravitational field, because F equals QE looks like F equals mg. Although note that for gravity, we'd have Fg equals F net, or mg equals ma, and we find that everyone gets the same acceleration. But for electricity, we have Fe equals F net, or QE equals ma, or A is QE over m, and is not the same for different masses, but rather ends up depending on this ratio, the charge to mass ratio. And so, although it's similar to gravity, it's not the same kind of thing. Now imagine that we lift that positive charge from point A to point B through a distance h. So from here to here, across a distance h. The electric field would do work against that motion, because after all, the electric force would point this way for a path that's pointing that way. And the work would be QE, the electric force, times the distance, times cosine of the angle between them, and of course the angle between these things is 180 degrees. Cosine of that is -1. So we find that the work done by the electric field is negative QEH. This increases the energy in the electric field since delta U is minus W. So the electric field increases, the electric energy increases by QEH, U sub E. All right, the electric potential energy grows up by some amount. This being exactly analogous to the increase in gravitational energy that would be mgh. So now consider our sphere of 3 grams and plus 2 microcoulombs and a field strength of 150 newtons per coulomb. We could find the energy at various levels. Let's define the energy to be 0 at the bottom. Remember, for potential energy, you can define the 0 anywhere you want. So in analogy to gravity, again, we'll take the lowest point as being 0 energy. And we'll find the energy every 0.3 centimeters because we know that this was 1.2 centimeters across. At a height of 0.3 centimeters, the electric energy would be the charge, 2 × 10⁻⁶ coulombs, times the electric field strength, 150 newtons per coulomb, times the distance. 0.3 centimeters is 3 millimeters, or 0.003 meters. Multiply all those out, and we'll get coulombs times newtons per coulomb. Right, we have coulombs times newtons per coulomb times meters, which is Newton times meters, which is joules. Here we get 6 × 10⁻⁷ joules, so we'll probably represent that as 0.6 microjoules. We could, of course, compute the electric potential energy at any height, and I've shown up here basically every multiple of 0.3 meters. All right, so this is 0.3, 0.6, 0.9, and 1.2 centimeters. And we get that kind of collection of energies. Not a big deal. But it would be the opposite for electrons or other negative charges. In other words, if we moved from A to B this way, well, that's the way that the electron wants to move, because negative charges move against field lines. And so the field would be doing positive work in moving this way. But then the change in potential energy would be negative. So we'd end up with less energy at the top. All right? And we have that, again, annoyance that the ordering matters based on the point charge we're talking about, not based on the capacitor, but on the particular charge you're talking about, which is irksome. For instance, if the charge had been minus 0.2 microcoulombs instead of plus 0.2 microcoulombs, then instead of increasing by 0.6 microjoules as we lift, it would have decreased. And the inversion comes from the test charge, not the capacitor, and so it's kind of annoying. We define our way around it. All right? The magnitude of the energy would also scale with the size of the charge. which is also annoying. And so we come to this important definition. We define the electric potential as the potential energy per unit charge. Right? So we say, how much energy do I have for every coulomb of charge that I have? We symbolize it with the letter V, and we define it as the limit as the test charge becomes 0 of the energy that charge has divided by the charge itself. The limit is needed for some mathematical nicety, but really will be okay if we just divide out the charge. So the SI unit for potential would end up being joules per coulomb, because we have joules and coulombs. We usually call that 1 volt, named after Volta, the scientist who first built practicable batteries, basically. 1 volt is 1 joule per coulomb. Yeah, sort of symbolic collision here. Note that we use the italicized V as the variable, and we use the straight V as the unit. It's not the first, and it won't be the last terrible choice of notations, especially in electricity. So you'll just have to get used to it from context and keep track of it that way. It means, especially when you're doing things by hand yourself, be really careful before you start canceling things out. Or follow my general advice, which is do everything symbolically until the end, and then start plugging in numbers. But that's sort of up to you.